Hey Pisces, I am so glad to be finally getting to your reading here. Of course, you're used to being the last one. Next month, I'll try to do Pisces first. Sometimes I worry when I mix the order, I get confused in the readings. But one of the good things about going last is I can put a lot of extra attention into you, Pisces, because you have the worthy of that. In other words, there's a lot going on that deserves you to have extra attention. Mainly, you've just had Saturn in your first house. So you would have matured and developed some sort of new ability to take on some kind of big project. In other words, you've become more responsible. You've taken on more responsibilities. You're ready to take on more responsibilities. Let's just put it that way. Um, and you have basically restructured yourself, your life. You've become a whole new person when Saturn leaves your first house. You have more authority around something. You believe in yourself. You've got more solid connection to the ground, the earth. You feel like you've made traction and you've developed yourself into a being now, into a person now. Now, with Saturn moving into your second house, now brings you the rewards of all that hard work in the form of reward, abundant finances. Now, your ruling planet is Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is very much the arts. Most Pisces, I very rarely meet a Pisces that does not have some sort of major, big creative ability. Now, your ruling planet is Jupiter and Neptune, and Neptune is the arts. You can read about all the ways Neptune represents the arts and the imagination and the creative forces. And we're going to have a new moon for Pisces at the end of the month here in your fifth house, which also brings up the topic of Jupiter, your ruling planet, in its exaltation, moving into your fifth house, the sign of Cancer. So you guys are going to have the best year of everybody because Jupiter in exaltation in your fifth house. I mean, oh my gosh, we're looking at creative abundance, creative projects, perhaps having a child. It can activate your luxury, finances to a luxurious state. This is all going to be within the year. If it doesn't happen within the year, you've made great stride to that destiny as Saturn, sorry, Jupiter moves up into the top of your charts. That's when you might experience most of the success. But Jupiter in your fifth house is a lot of fun. You do get exposure, you perform, and I'm sure there's success along that. Jupiter in Cancer is a very financially abundant energy. So that's really great for Pisces. Now you've done a lot of maturation, a lot of growth. You're about to have Saturn in your second house, which restructures your finances, which changes the way you earn your money, which also has you work very, very hard for your money. It can sometimes block income, but Saturn never leaves us destitute. Saturn makes sure we have dinner, maybe not dessert. But Saturn in your second house has you working hard in a new way because it's in the sign of Aries. So we're starting a new 29-year cycle. So you're starting a new job, a new work that is going to sustain you financially for a good 29 years. Now we have a Jupiter square right now, which is your ruling planet. So this new beginnings could be blocked for a little bit until Jupiter comes out of combustion and out of that square, which is mostly towards the end of the month. But you're going to be seeing the path opening up. You're going to see, for instance, my son is rising Pisces. He's in his car today driving to Vegas for a job interview. So there might be some, it's a good chance he gets that because of the alignment of the planets. And but there's going to be a lot of adjustment occurring. He's going to have to either move or find another apartment, or that's the square. Some sort of adaptation or delays occur before this actually starts to take off. And that's just Saturn making sure things are aligned right. It just has to be that way because these are big new beginnings. With Neptune there, don't forget your ruling planet is conjoining Saturn. So there's a good chance this is very creative, auspicious new financial beginnings for you. And then, so let's go ahead and pop the chart for you guys. You have the North Node in Pisces too. So that's going to be in your first house. So, and that is going to be significant because that's going to be where the eclipses occur here in the, um, am I going the wrong way? Which way? Let's get going here. Pisces. There we go. So we're going to have a series. We have a Pisces eclipse at 29 degrees on the 21st of September. And then we have a Virgo eclipse in your seventh house at about 15, 16 degrees. I have to double check on that. But anyway, so we've got, it happens on the 7th. So that's about, yeah, about 17 degrees. So we've got this shift going on with the nodes in your first house, which really aligns with this new beginning of Saturn in your second. So you're really a new destiny. And when you have the nodes in Pisces in your first house, I moved when I had them. Everybody I know that I do readings for that has the nodes transiting their first house, they tend to make big moves, big relocations, probably because it squares the fourth. And you have this new beginning happening in your career. So you're going to align where you're supposed to be because Pisces North Node is very much about soul calling, purpose, and aligning with your Dharma because it's Jupiter ruled, right? So, and also it's liberating. It's like spiritual liberation. There's a big breakthrough occurring in some sort of resistance to who you really are. Because the nodes kind of come into the first house, really empower who you are, who you truly are, and you can't resist it. It sort of bursts into reality. So the nodes are going to go this way. So that's going to be throughout the year that you're going to be experiencing this relocating and, shall we say, realigning with your true path. And then we've got, because the eclipses are going to knock you into that, and your relationships are going to go through these changes too, because there's going to be a Virgo eclipse, which usually indicates either your relationship changes or your person has a big shift in their life. So yeah, so we're looking at these financially stabilizing big new beginnings that do involve hard work, focus, but you've just had Saturn in your first house, so you're sort of used to it. Saturn in the first house brings a lot of work with not a lot of rewards, but it's building you into that it's building you into into being that person that does then become that you become structurally, foundationally capable for the rest of the cycle here. And so look at this beautiful angle to your second house of the planets with Neptune, Saturn. These are beautiful new beginnings for you. These are very important and auspicious new beginnings that are probably your dream. I'm going to say it's what every Pisces has been wishing for. Because I mean, how can it not be with the North Node in your first house, amplifying who you truly are, the truth of who you really are? It's just all aligning with the truth of who you really are. So how great is that? Uranus and Venus are going to hit here at the end of the month in your third house, and there's going to be some sort of information or news coming because that's in the third house. Now, this can go either way. This can, in other words, it can be bad news or good news. Shakespeare has a famous quote saying, "Nothing is good nor bad. It is thinking that makes it so. So it's just our reaction and our responses that can make it a problem." But this is happening at a 29th degree point and it's making a beautiful sextile. So I'm leaning, it depends on how this hits your personal chart. I'm leaning that this is very good news. This would be this is happening on early July. So there could be very good news that something goes forward, surprise, beautiful goes forward in your destiny. Something really works out for you guys here in Pisces in your finances. Pisces walk quite a long time in poverty, but then they can have these big sort of transformative when they believe in themselves. You know, the second house is believing in yourself. So you may be really deeping in on, digging out some lack of some low self-worth coming up and needing that to be eradicated. But this opportunity that opens up for you here at the end of the month is going to eradicate, you're going to feel very good about yourself. Then we have, what else do I want to look at? We do currently this weekend have a Jupiter-Mercury conjunction. And let's just use my son as an example because he is in the car, Mercury, going for a job interview. Jupiter, which is his purpose, his calling. Mercury is also work. It's the macro and the micro. Jupiter is the macro, Sagittarius. Mercury is the micro in Gemini. So there's some sort of plan or strategy or information or communication now that does change his destiny. Look at that. It's going to square the nodes for all Pisces. So this particular transit today is making an aspect to the nodes, tilting our destiny. We have a full moon in Sagittarius coming up too, ruled by Jupiter. Let me get us back onto Pisces here. Ruled by Jupiter, and that is the full moon Sagittarius. Where does that hit for Pisces? In your 10th house of career. I mean, wow. This is great financial progress for Pisces. Very, very good rest of the summer. Again, there's your ruling planet is squaring Saturn, so don't put any too big disappointments on things not firing up right away. but we've got some good energy coming in here. We've got Mars also trining Chiron in your second house. And Mars is in Leo, which is confidence and believing in yourself. And so you're getting a very strong support from Mars. And most musicians have planets in your sixth house. And if you're rising Pisces, my son's a musician, going to Vegas for an audition. He has his Mars at 26 degrees Leo in his sixth house. So this looks very good for him. So these are good energies right now for Pisces, for inspired, creative projects that really translate into a financial abundance for you and and if you're you could be entrepreneurial and have creative tendencies just in running a business because we're going to have that Jupiter. That's going to be what's happening when these planets move into your fifth house, and then we're going to have that new moon there. New beginnings involving creative projects, performing arts, having children. Now that full moon, let me jump back to that full moon in Sagittarius, which is going to be a truth, which is going to be which is something happening, a revelation, a truth, or knowing something. In other words, you could be further along than you are, or you could be further back than you are. This news could be good or bad, but it does change your destiny because this full moon in the sign of Sagittarius at 20 degrees squares the nodes. And that's in your first and your second houses, and that's activating the next set of eclipses. So some big shift is occurring in your lives this month that really tilts you onto your true dharmic path, a big new way of making money. It's going to be hard work, but you are inspired by it, and you have the confidence because you believe in yourself now because you've had Chiron in your second house, transforming your low self-esteem into turning you into a creative force on the planet. To have that force of fire, creative force to be able to express itself clearly through your psyche body and your energy field and be the full creative expression. Leo is all about creative self-expression. In your sixth house, which is your service, where you're here to be of service in your job. And you're going to have the North Node in your first house that lines you up with that even more. So, Pisces, this looks like a very, very good month. The sun moves into your fifth house there on the 21st, again, giving more energy to fun, play, good times. Um, Good news with that Jupiter Mercury conjoining today during the weekend. It's sextiling Venus in a awesome Mercury is going to be sextiling Venus there on June 11th on this full moon where you see you're really blessed financially. There's some sort of financial good news and gain. Good month for you, Pisces. I hope this was helpful for you and helped restore your faith in your future because there's a lot of good stuff down the road for Pisces. This is going to be a year because your ruling planet's in Cancer for the year. So this whole year is going to be good. Not that there's not going to be some bumps along the way. I'm sure there are, but on the whole, this is going to be one of your good years. So enjoy it, embrace it, step into the frequency of abundance and faith, which is your natural state because you're ruled by Jupiter. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.